and the coat is billowing in the wind. That's your anime pose.
I think you've described a magician, unfortunately enough for me, and my sort of personal brand.
Smart guy.
Hey, David.
Hey, Chase.
I sure do like making this podcast.
Do you?
Yeah.
Me too.
Just like walking around on Mondays. I'm like, fuck yeah. Today's going to be sick. Mm-hmm. Monday's going to be really cool because I get to go and like talk at length ad nauseum about video games. Like, I don't know if you do this. Like, I don't have a ton of people that I can like really go hard in the paint talking about video games with.
Yeah, just post me up, baby. Post me up. I'll take it. I'll take it. I totally get what you mean.
Like, I have plenty of people that I can kind of talk about video games with, and I'm like super happy to have any of those conversations. Mm-hmm. But like, I really can't go quite as hard as I want to when I'm just talking to like somebody about video games.
It's true. You know, you have like these different spheres of levels of people who are interested in games. Yeah. And there's like, I don't know, for me, it's like a lot of people I talk to at work. Like, oh, what do you do for like when you're not here? And I can't be like, I just game all the time. They're going to think I'm a weirdo. Again,
my friend, have you played Divinity Original Sin 2?
I have sunk hundreds of hours into this game with my significant other. It was wonderful. But no, I totally get what you mean.
Yeah, it's just not something you come by. And so like on Mondays, it's just running through my head. Like I can just unload in here.
Yeah, like, just unload all over me, baby.
Ay. That was the last episode. You forgot. This is 70 now. We're over it.
Yeah, you're right. We can't make any more blue jokes ever again.
No
more crude humor.
Not until 2069. Oh, our 42,000th episode.
42,069th. How old would I be?
I know. I was just wondering, how long do we have to do this? Yeah, no, we'll be there at our 800th year of podcasting.
So
807 to be specific.
So now we have something to strive for. So that one of us needs to go back to school and start like bioengineering some sort of cryogenic stasis chamber.
Yeah, that we can just wake ourselves up for weekly
pod episodes.
I mean, weekly life at that point. You're only going to be alive for Mondays.
It's true.
If you're being smart about it, like noon to 10.
But now this is the real question, though.
Yeah.
Are we going to sound like Darth Vader or Mr. Freeze?
I hope Mr. Freeze. I feel like Mr. Freeze I understand a lot better. Vader's like kind of edgy and like not really the look I'm going for. Didn't Mr. Freeze just like lose his wife and he was like trying to like figure that out?
I mean, that's kind of edgy.
Yeah, but he's like trying to do good by it. He just like happens to turn to evil. Whereas Vader's like, oh, I'm just such a shithead. Why doesn't everybody like me? And I'm like, he just killed
such a shithead.
Like, he just kills a bunch of people. And then he's surprised when his girlfriend says, this sucks. I'm leaving. And his best friend is like, dude, you can't kill kids. Yeah. And he's like, but actually I'm super strong. And my old shitty friend is actually cool. Mm-hmm. I don't know, dude. I don't have a lot of sympathy for Vader.
Yeah.
He dug his hole.
I don't think he's supposed to be a sympathetic character, is he? I mean, maybe at the end.
They certainly tried.
At the end, when he redeems himself.
Took a fucking minute, though, didn't it? Took a little while, huh, Vader?
Sure did.
Couldn't have, like, not blown up Alderaan?
Killed thousands and thousands of people before he figured it out. Actually, millions, probably, if you count all of Alderaan as Vader.
Although they did, and I don't know, I feel like the Death Star was kind of like doing its own thing with Vader there. They're all like kind of shitty to him too. Do you remember that? Like in the fourth one, they kept calling him a wizard. I forgot about this. I watched it recently.
Is that being shitty to someone? If someone called me a wizard, I'd be like, yes, I am that.
I am a wizard. I'm cool. You mean to insult me, but actually this is cool, isn't it?
Joke's on you.
I have to say the name of the podcast. It is 5 minutes in at this point, and we're talking about Star Wars. I need to introduce this. It is Video Game Podtimism, the Optimist video game variety show where two best friends talk about the wonderful world of gaming. Sometimes, it seems. My name is Chase, And I have no sympathy for Vader.
My name is David, and Vader, I mean, I see how he could be sympathetic, but also like, fuck that guy.
Yeah. I don't know. I got more people to care about, man.
It's fair. It's fair.
Man, we got some cool video games to tell you about today, listener. We got some good ones.
Do we?
Yeah, I've got the one. I'm looking at my list over here.
Oh,
cool
we have to make the transition to video games and not Star Wars. Is that what you're saying?
No, just like I'm excited to talk about the video games that we got. Again, I'm just like I'm rolling them out around in my day to day, and I'm like, how do I talk to my normal's relative. How do I talk to my other friends about The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword? How do I do that?
They are nothing compared to me.
My power is too immense.
The nice tactical use of the wheels on your chair.
I just look at Audacity sometimes, and it gives me the look of like, you're not going to be happy about the sound that's coming out from this one. So maybe you should just go ahead and back up a little bit. So did that. David, have you been playing video games recently?
Oh, baby. I've been playing some games with a capital GAMES.
Yeah, your significant other has not been around recently.
She is not here. I am the boss of the casa at this moment.
The bossa of the casa.
The bossa of the casa.
The bassa of the casa.
Bassa of the casa. Soul bossa nova. Anyways.
Yes, you've been playing video games because you've had a lot of time to play video games. What's the point of that?
Yeah, this whole weekend was just for me, and I spent that playing a lot of video games.
Tell me about them.
So I have really sunk into XCOM 2.
Okay, cool.
Quite good. Still very much enjoying it. I'm starting, my people are starting to get closer to death every now and then, and it scares me so much. I get so scared. Especially this one lady, she's just like, death wants to take her. Like every single time that she goes out on a mission now, she gets gravely wounded. I have to wait like 28 days for her to patch herself up. Then she goes back out there and gets like a critical hit the first time that someone tries to attack her. And I spend the whole rest of the game just trying to protect her life because she's one of my ride or dies.
Yes. So where were you last time we talked about this, and how far into it are you now?
I'd say I'm probably another like 4 or 5 hours into it. I guess story-wise, where am I? I'm not in America yet. I'm like in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
We know that like the elder aliens are dying, and that they're using like human DNA to bind all the other alien DNA into some sort of super creature thing.
Gotcha.
So yeah, that's kind of
chimera. Is that what they call that?
I think so. But yeah, that's kind of where I am right now.
Cool. What's got you hooked about this? You said you're playing a lot of it.
I really enjoy that it's kind of like a board game.
Mm-hmm.
Like every little bit that you do matters. Like even in the overworld, there's always like the time is elapsing. There's always that threat of, the increasing research capability of the aliens. And if they get all the way to the top, you're just going to lose.
Yeah.
I like that. I like the gameplay. Gameplay feels very satisfying.
Yeah.
It feels just tactical enough, but I'm on the easy difficulty, so like not so scary that like my people are gonna die. I don't think I could handle that. I'd be too stressed. If I really felt like at any moment they could just get offed.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a nice little menagerie of powerful soldiers at this point that I just cycle through. But no, it's just I got into the character customization aspect of it too. So I'm like, this lady definitely wears aviators and has a cigarette in her mouth. That's definitely her personality that I've crafted for her. I appreciate
a slight amount of role playing in your role playing game.
I appreciate that they are letting me fulfill this fantasy. But no, it's it's a deep game, but accessible at the same time. So I mean, definitely at higher difficulties, I'm sure it'll be much more challenging. But right where it is now, I'm just able to kind of enjoy all like the finer, not the finer mechanics, but the basic mechanics of the game. Yeah, and they are nice. I like when you critical hit somebody, feels good, feels significant. I like it when you get a new squad upgrade. Ooh, always feels good. Everybody's wearing better armor, has better guns. Get to blast some people. And I like the way that like the technology tree is progressing. It seems significant and it seems pretty cool where the weaponry and everything is going to go and how it's going to change how I interact with the maps. Because I already got like that little spider suit for my snipers. Ooh, that one's good. You'd like grapple around. Feels like a Attack on Titan.
Oh yeah, sure enough, huh?
And now I just got the armor where you can like phase through walls and shit. Jane Warden Kelly is gonna murder some aliens with that, and I'll tell you that right now.
Full name.
Warden is her nickname.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool nickname.
Jane Warden Kelly. I also love that they get nicknames whenever they get to, what is that, captain? Or no, lieutenant? Something like, I think it's lieutenant. So they calls you captain.
So it sounds like kind of just like the mechanical density has got you in there.
The mechanical density, the progression of everything.
Yeah.
And then just, I guess, the general gameplay loop of you have this squad of people tactically advance and attack and defend per the situation. And I also like that they are continually adding new enemies, so it never doesn't get dull, because there's always an element of mystery as to what this new enemy is going to do or what their attacks are or anything like that.
Yeah, for sure. I think like they do a good job, and I know it's, you know, it's not perfect, but they do a good job of just slowly introducing you to the mechanics that are in there and letting you kind of chew on them for a little bit before they start tossing more stuff at you.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you unlock the like upgrade or tech tree initially. Like, it takes a little while, I think. Initially, you're just kind of fighting dudes.
Yeah.
And you come back and like upgrade a little something. So like, I appreciate that there's kind of that slow drip, because I think that stuff is oftentimes overlooked. Like, they'll just start hurling mechanics at you sometimes. And so like, figure it out. And I know that there's like some people who enjoy just like being dropped into a pool of complex systems and figuring that out. But I appreciate when a game tries pretty hard to like make that learning curve a little bit easier. In Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, it does this thing that like, it's just so challenging, where they like start introducing mechanics and they just start throwing text box after text box at you. After the 8th text box and I haven't pressed a button, I don't know what I'm even reading about anymore. Like, my brain has just like refused to grapple with the mechanic that you're trying to present. Like, I know it's goofy, and I'll talk about sort of like over tutorialization in a little bit here, but like, tell me press square to punch and then let me punch. Press triangle to kick and let me kick. Like, I need to get these things one at a time, rather than like, there's like this mechanic in Kakarot of like, you get chips for every character you meet, and then you have to place them on these, I think it's a community board. What? Which thereby boosts your passive stats. Like,
oh my god, that's so many buzzwords all at once. I don't care.
It's terrible. No, like,
chip on a community board to raise my passive stats. Where is a community board? Is there a community board anywhere in the DBZ universe? What's a chip?
No, it's absolutely
Is it a potato
unrelated.
Chip?
It looks like
Kale
a pog.
chip? A what?
That you get. It looks like a pog with a character's face on it.
Oh, sure.
Like, here's your Trunks chip, and he has these stats that you can put him on either the training board, the fighter board, the cooking board, the god board, which will all increase different stats depending on which one you put him on.
What's the god board? Like Super Saiyan God?
No, like King Kai and like Kame and stuff like that. It's irrelevant. It's so stupid.
Why don't you skip these? Why don't you give me stat points?
Yes, exactly. And like the stat booster's so minuscule. You'll get an upgrade and it'll be plus 2% physical damage. What does it mean? I don't. It doesn't feel like anything.
Physical damage. Does that mean like punches and kicks only? No Kai attacks?
Definitely punches. My confusion is more just like, how does 2% affect me? Like, I'm not interested in the exponential growth of punches. Jeez. Like, I want to punch and have it feel good. So,
I mean, if you punch 50 times, it's actually like punching 51 times.
That's what I mean. That doesn't feel like anything. Griffin McElroy on the Besties always talks about how he hates when like games will give you upgrades where it's like plus 5% attack and how it just doesn't mean anything. Eventually it will, but like, give me something to chew on. Give me a 25%. Give me a 50% so that like I really feel it, if that's what you want. If you don't want to give me a new move, if you don't want like a new mechanic, if you don't want to introduce a new mechanic and you just want to like make the numbers a little different, like make it significant versus like just kind of poking at like 1%, 2%, 3%. Like,
that's what leveling up is for. That's when you give me like that little tiny boost where I feel like, okay, I'm a little bit stronger base. Now I can add like all this other great stuff on top.
So like, I don't know. This really derailed. But the point was that like XCOM does its upgrades very well. Mm-hmm. Every time that you get a significant enough one, it's this nice back and forth of like you get a little upgrade and then you beat the shit out of some enemies. Then the enemies get a little bit stronger. And then you try and grind towards an upgrade and you get the upgrade and then you kick the enemy's ass. And like that sort of back and forth is really satisfying. And they like tuned the difficulty very well to that like curve that they're building there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think they did it well because they made some upgrades like very specific, like for attacking a certain type or stat on an enemy.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, in the beginning, like, why would I ever put anything into like armor shredding abilities when no one else facing had any armor? And then all of a sudden, like, oh, armor sucks in this game. Like, armor just just makes killing people so much harder. So yeah, I definitely want to invest in armor shredding for all of my grenadiers.
And I feel like they do that pretty intelligently, where like you said, you'll see it in the beginning and be like, why would I do that? And then it forces you to make a smart decision of like, I'm not going to use that right now. Mm-hmm. You see somebody with armor and you're like, oh, I remember when there was a fork in the road and I chose to not do it. Like, let me go back and sort of change my strategy up a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And they do a good job of making resources just scarce enough to where they still feel scarce, but not like they're being purposefully stingy with them.
Yeah.
And like artificially creating, I mean, it is artificial scarcity, but artificial over scarcity, I guess, in a way. Artificial difficulty, I guess, would be a better way of putting it.
It's such a hard line to hit with that. Like giving you enough resources. Like they could just give you as many as you want, but the game wouldn't feel good. And like, I feel like the line between this feels like not enough and this feels like way too much, like I've never had to like worry about money, is so fine. It like requires so much testing and being like, where do people even land on like how many optional missions are they hitting? How many main missions are they hitting? Are they doing them to the point where they're getting like this much money from each one? Just like it seems so hard to do.
Yeah, no, most definitely it is hard to do, but I think they do it well in this one because you have to use the resource of time to collect the supplies or the intel or anything like that. So there's always a sunk cost into it, but the reward is great.
It's a good game.
Yeah, I'm still really enjoying it.
What else are you playing?
Dream Daddy.
Still playing Dream Daddy?
I'm
sure.
Still dreaming of dads.
How has your relationship progressed? Last time you were interested, I feel like in three of the dads?
Yeah, so I went on dates with two of them.
Who'd you go on the dates with?
I went on dates with Matt and Hugo.
Okay. Yes.
So my date with Matt was pretty good. He's the hip barista who loves music.
Yes.
And so he took me out to a concert of a Canadian. He reminded me of you when you talk about band names or band like genre types of music. It was like a post pop punk garage band from Canada or something like that.
Oh boy.
And it shows like your character's inner dialogue sometimes. And he's like, I didn't even know you were allowed to use that many words to describe music. I'm just like, I've been there, buddy.
Hey, what's up? Hi.
So we went there and there was a bunch of shit. We were pretty out of place because there were a bunch of just like 20 somethings there ready to hang out.
Yeah.
And we're dads, of course.
Yeah.
And then we went up to the front and there was a bad opener band that was just like a bunch of kids playing like cellos and screaming and breaking their cellos, some shit like that.
That sounds pretty good to me.
I tried to talk to him over the cacophony. He gave me earplugs because he knew it was going to happen.
Oh, sure.
But he couldn't hear me. He couldn't hear me.
Yeah.
So then they left and the regular band was going to come on, but I was like, I got to pee. My tiny dad bladder, that's what it said in the game, forced me to have to go pee. And then when I came back, the band had like already started to like come on stage, so everyone was rushing up to the front. I'm like, I'm never gonna get back to him. And then it makes you play a little mini game to try to get to the front, and you're just like trying to dodge all these like mosh pit people.
Yeah.
But I failed.
Oh no!
I had 10 seconds left, and I failed, so I wasn't able to get back to Matt.
Oh, this is tragic.
Afterwards, we still grabbed some food, but it wasn't as good as it could have been. I got a B. Yeah. I got a B on that date, and it goes to SS plus, of course.
Oh, okay. So maybe this is kind of middle of the road.
S plus, I think. And then my date with Hugo, though, it was good.
It was better.
It was better. Okay. So Hugo's a teacher. He's actually he's my daughter's English teacher.
Yes.
And he's like, "Yo, I'm watching, or I'm chaperoning this middle school field trip today to the aquarium. I really need some help with this because there's like no other parents here. Like other parents who are supposed to chaperone like dipped for some reason. Okay. And so I'm just like, that sounds shitty, but okay, I'm there. Yeah. But like, this guy knows so much about fish. I'm very impressed by his knowledge of fish. And then I bullshitted with him about knowing about fish. And he thought it was funny. And he had little like, if you do something that they like, either flowers or eggplant emojis will fly out behind them. And sometimes it's a mixture of both. I was getting a lot of flowers and eggplant emojis from him whenever I was saying things that were funny.
Hell yeah.
Oh yeah. I was reading Hugo like a book. Easy peasy.
Hell yeah. Maybe it just means you guys had a good connection.
We had a good connection. I had to save this kid from the penguin enclosure because she was like trying to save the penguins.
Oh no.
And I had to bribe her to get her out.
With real human money?
Well, I mean, my video game human money. $12. She's like, I'll take the other 8 later. She went on 20.
Oh, sure.
And then Hugo's like, did you just bribe that child? I'm just like, I'm not proud of it, but I had to do it. And he's like,
you saved that child is what happened.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. And then little flowers came out from behind him because he liked that answer.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. I got an S+ on that date.
Oh, well done. There was a good date.
Yeah. There was a mini game where I had to keep penguins from fleeing the pen, which pretty much just like consisted of me pointing the mouse at them as they came closer and like a giant hand just going out and hitting them back. It's quite interesting.
It's good stuff.
So yeah, it's a fun game. It's just the writing is funny. Game. Yeah. It's just very wholesome. It's easy to look at. The characters are cool. It's just a fun game. It's a good game.
Yeah, definitely. As per our conversation about dating simulators, it seems like good dating sims may be my comfort food for a little while. Like enjoying dating sims may just be like a nice relaxation sort of thing to go to. Exactly. I've been playing Monster Prom a lot more. Yeah. As just like a wind down before bed because it's a lot of reading, right? Like talking a lot.
It's a lot of reading. Just here, spacebar, 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 spacebar. Yeah, just constantly.
Yeah, no, it's like, it's not a particularly intense game. Even like my typical go-tos for go-to-bed games are Slay the Spire and Griftlands at this point, but just a dating sim is quite nice to wind down. Well, sweet. I'm glad you're enjoying this video game.
It's fun. You should try it. I think you'd like it.
Yeah, why not? I guess I'm into dating sims now.
This podcast is going to take a strange turn from this point on.
And that's the point when video game Podtimists lost my interest.
The 69th episode is really a turning point for this cast, guys.
Yeah, they turned into villains after the 69th episode.
Are you saying people who enjoy dating sims are villains, Chase?
Just us, specifically. Just us. Everybody else is fine. It's just us.
We can't handle the power of the dating sim.
What else have you been playing?
Chase, I have also been playing Forza Horizon 4.
What the fuck? I had a game that I was expecting you to say, and that was not it. Yeah.
What did you expect me to say?
I bet you'll get to it, but that was not the one I was expecting. You've been playing Forza Horizon 4. So is Forza Horizon 4 out?
Yeah, you're thinking of Forza Horizon 5. Chase, I bought Gamepass.
Oh shit. Okay, this is significant. Do you have an Xbox? That's new info to me.
No, I got it on my PC.
Whoa, that's why you were asking me about if your GPU running at 100% was an issue.
My VRAM was also running at almost 100%, and I think that one is an issue, isn't it?
Yeah, RAM being fully utilized might be more of an issue, but your GPU running 100%, that's fine, baby. It just means you're using the resources that you got, which is fine.
So I guess my TV can't do 4K ray trace, or my computer can't do 4K ray tracing.
That might be the issue. If you drop it down to 1080, I'm sure it will be fine.
Yeah, it was still a little choppy even at 1080. Maybe I just need, I don't know. They didn't say that it was like going too crazy, so I don't know if it was something else going on with the computer, but regardless, Forza Horizon 4, very good.
Yeah. Are you into racing games? Do I know this about you?
I love racing games.
Yeah, I know you liked Need for Speed and all that shit, but I feel like I haven't talked to you about like racing games in the modern age.
The modern age?
Yeah.
Like what are you talking about?
Like any of the Forza series or anything like that, or like I know you're not like a huge Gran Turismo boy.
Yeah, you know what my come to Jesus moment was for racing sims?
What's that?
Chico,
the place.
We went
Was it
there.
Hale?
It was Hale. He had Big 50 on his his desk. Big 50. I'm sorry, not Big 50. That's his father.
Big 50. That's the TV before him, the CRT. Big 50.
Big 50.
Please, Big 50 was my father.
Anyways, and just how immersive. I think it was like Forza 3 or something like that. Forza Motorsport, something like 3 that, or 4. Yeah. And just playing that on that big beast right there with the sound and everything. I was like, I am a race car driver. I am a race car. I am Speed McQueen. No, Lightning McQueen, not Speed McQueen. Speed McQueen.
Hell yeah. I think I had a similar thing because I played Forza for a while, but like I wasn't really into it until I knew people who were into it. I was like, okay, this game is pretty good.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. Talk about Horizon 4. It's a good video game.
It's a good video game. I like that how it takes a lot of different racing game tropes and makes it its own. There's like the dirt racing, so it's like Colin McRae dirt. Yeah. And then there's the city racing, like the street racing, so it's like Need for Speed, and it's got like techno-y beats instead in the background. And then it's got like stuntman stuff too, where you're a movie driver. So it's just combining a lot of different video games that I enjoy into one game, and I'm quite pleased with it so far. Quite pleased.
It's a good game. I truly enjoyed it.
And I also enjoy playing it on this new controller I had to get to play Gamepass on my PC. Because
you had to get a controller?
Gamepass says no to PS4 controllers.
Sorry, Sony.
Pretty much.
No can do. So no Sony's allowed here.
To go get a wired Xbox One controller.
Okay.
But it's quite a nice controller, actually. It's got LED lights. Yeah. It's got little pro gamer buttons for your middle finger on the grips.
Little, what do they call those?
Advanced buttons or something like that. Advanced triggers.
Paddles? Is it a paddle?
It's more like a button as opposed to a paddle.
Did you get the pro controller? Are there 4 of them on the back?
I did not get to the $180 controller. No.
Yeah. Yes.
I did not get that.
But there are buttons back there.
Buttons back there. Cool. And you can also adjust the depth at which the triggers pull, which is kind of cool. But no, it's a really, really nice controller, actually.
Yeah, I also liked Forza Horizon. I feel like Horizon's a really fun game. Like, if you're not into the racing sims, Horizon's a phenomenal alternative.
Yeah, it dials back the authenticity of the physics from like a 10 to maybe like a 7 or a 6.
I think that feels right. Like, it's enough to the point where you're like, I need to break at certain points in this game, but like not to the point where you have to come to like such a crawl coming around a corner. Like in Forza, it's very much like you need to be going like maybe 30 or 40 around a corner. Even that's a little fast.
Yeah.
Versus like you can probably be going like 70, 80 around corners in this and you're probably fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was really good. I was really into Horizon 1. I think that one came out in like 2012 or something like that. It played off of like all of the like EDM tropes that were common at the time. Like it was just a lot of like EDM techno music playing in the background constantly. It was supposed to be like a festival. Like you were a racer at like a music festival, I think. Or it could have been a racing festival, I'm not sure. But just like that part of it felt like the culture of underground. Remember that? Like how it felt like this whole thing sort of like bottled.
Oh yeah.
Forza Horizon 1 sort of felt like that in the way of like all this music that I very much listened to at the time sort of put into a video game, and suddenly there's also cars with it. I don't know. It just felt really cool.
This feeling plus cars. Vibe plus cars equals Chase is happy.
It's me. Hi.
It's me. But no, I'm really pleased with this game. It's very fun. And it's cool. It's nice, just kind of like chill game because it's very kind of British about it, you know?
Yeah.
It's not like you have to do this. The world depends on it. It's like, hey, we got this thing over here. Come on over whenever you have some time. It's like, okay, cool.
Do this race. It's fun.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a good time. So that one's been good.
Cool.
And maybe the last one, I don't know, maybe I'm forgetting something else that you saw me playing. But I've been playing Doom Eternal.
Doom Eternal. Okay, yeah.
Also a Game Pass game.
Yeah, absolutely. You recently played 2016, the Doom game from then.
Yeah, I just beat it like last week.
Nice. And so you jumped right into Eternal. How does it compare? Like I I waited quite a while because I played Doom 2016 at launch and then Eternal at launch. And so there's a bit of time between those.
The most striking thing is the color. It's much more colorful.
The color. Interesting. I didn't even think about that.
There's like more blues. It's not just like gray and red, which is pretty much what Doom 2016 was. Either it's spaceship or space station or hell. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. And that color palette gets a little tiresome. It feels pretty samey after a little bit. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm enjoying the more varieties. There's like some green. There's a whole level that's like green in there. Yeah, like ruins, castle ruins in the sky. I'm like, ooh, it's just like stepping outside of a hot house into a nice cool evening. It's just
wow, that was evocative. I was there, David. I have stepped out from a hot house into a cool evening.
Anybody who's lived in Sacramento knows the feel. So yeah, it's nice. And I just started a level where it's all ice. So I'm like, okay, this is definitely a different vibe. So I appreciate that about it. Yep. The next thing, I guess, is probably how good it looks. Like the Doom 2016 looked good, but this game looks like holy shit. Yeah. Sometimes if I got the ray tracing working right for my computer that day, baby, does that look good? That looks juicy on I'm playing this on my TV right now too, so it's like extra. Yeah, you extra can juicy.
See all the juice. Yeah.
Oh God. That was last episode, Chase. Come on, please. So yeah, it's that's probably the two things that strike me the most. I mean, I guess they have some different things with the combat, with like the flame belcher and like the ice missiles or whatever, which seem pretty fun. But I haven't really used them that much quite yet. I'm still kind of getting used to the fact that they're there. Yeah, and just my default in a game like this, where it's super hectic and crazy and just they're throwing enemies at you all the time, is I'm just going to shoot. Like,
I'm not a bad strategy.
I am very much a boomer millennial gamer. And my default is just to shoot. Just like
kids
in Fortnite,
these days
I don't
with their
build.
Flame belchers.
I don't build in Fortnite. I just shoot. Just keep it simple,
I hear
baby.
That, sister.
Keep it simple.
Yeah.
But no, still very engaging. Still feel like I'm coming upon the same issue I had with the first one, in that it's just sometimes a bit too much for me to handle. Yeah. For prolonged periods of time. But yeah, it's still fun.
The first thing I felt like I ran into in that game, it definitely feels like, hey, it's more Doom. There is a lot of story in Doom Eternal. They're really hitting you with a lot of like lore about Doom.
I do like the lore. That was some of my favorite stuff from the first Doom. Was like the Doom Slayer lore in hell. And now this one's really hitting me with the Hell Priests and the Con Maker and the chanting. The deep throated chanting.
Yeah.
So I like the kind of almost gothic hell tone that it's taking.
That old spooky castle Christianity.
Castle-chianity.
Was that the last game you were playing?
I think so, unless you saw me playing something.
I saw you make an attempt at building Waluigi in WWE.
That's right. I didn't even count that as playing because I didn't even play the game.
The wrestling video.
I just created a monstrosity. I did my best at creating Waluigi because I was inspired by you creating Wario.
To the best of my ability, it wasn't great.
The best of my. You should post the pictures of both of them on our Twitter.
See the very much not Wario's and not Waluigi's we made.
I couldn't make him skinny enough.
No, the body types are not varied enough to get a Waluigi.
It's so strange that the aesthetic of that game, it's very off-putting.
I know, it's a little scary. The proportions
really
are all
like
wrong.
A witch has like taken these players and like cursed them with small bodies and kept their heads the same.
Yeah, like big head mode doesn't scare me in the way that this game does.
That's because it's one step away from being big head mode, but it's not quite It's not cartoonish enough to be big head mode, but it's not normal enough to be normal mode. It's somewhere in between, which is like this weird uncanny valley of...
It's scary.
Of head size.
Yeah. Sick.
That's it. That's all I've been playing.
It's cool.
That's it.
Let me into your segment, David. Call me in. Incant my powers.
What if I said no?
Then we'd move right on to good games. Nobody would know what I've played this week, David.
That's no fun. I'm inviting you in. Come on in, buddy.
Thank you. The games that I have been playing, David. It's a weird bunch this week. The least, I mean, I have played Slay the Spire, but that's besides the point.
It's nothing new.
No. The least weird out of the bunch is still The Last Spell. I cannot break the spell that The Last Spell has cast on me. In that I want to play it all the time. I've put a lot of time into this video game so far. It's still very enjoyable. I still always want to play it. I have gotten to the last night of the first level.
The last night of the first spell.
Of the first, right? the first level in the last spell. Yes, the first last spell.
The last night of the first spell of the last spell.
That's it. Clear as day. Yeah, it's still very good. The last level I thought was, I thought I had it, and then it got much harder and kicked my ass. So I'm not quite there yet. I'm unlocking more of those meta progressions. It feels good. I'm doing much better every run. I'm chasing that dragon. I want to beat this video game. It's just also very difficult.
Yeah. No, if you're having trouble with it, it must be a doozy.
You know, you would think that for given how many like roguelikes I play, but I'm not convinced I'm not just like a dipshit at these video games and totally not doing it right. Like I play a lot of video games, but sometimes I make mistakes in video games that I'm like, is this the first one that I've played, actually? Is this the first video game that I've ever engaged with?
What's the most common dipshit mistake you make in a game?
Probably just, like, misunderstanding a mechanic from jump. Mm-hmm. Like, sometimes I will, like, just think that I know how a game works and consistently fuck it up. Sure. Like, there will be one mechanic that I just, like, why is it this way? And then 10 hours into the game, will realize that I have been not doing it correctly for quite some time.
I mean, if you hadn't told me about parrying in Bloodborne, I still wouldn't have been doing it.
I mean, they don't explain that to you, I think, at all, but it's a very important part of that video game.
I was still more of a dodge boy, but no, I hear what you're saying.
I mean, it is important. You can make either one viable, which I think makes Bloodborne a good video game. Ooh. But yeah, hot take. Bloodborne is good
up for that one.
I really wanted to drive the point home. Bloodborne, good. The Last Spell, it's still very good. It's a roguelike, kind of tower defense-y. I've talked about it in the last few episodes. I won't belabor that point. It's very good. I'm still playing it. The next game that I'm playing is The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, David.
Ooh, remake? Remaster?
The remake remaster. It came out on the Switch last Friday.
Actually, it's just like HD, isn't it? Sorry.
Yeah, they haven't done too much to it. There's a few changes in there. It runs quite well. It's at 60 frames a second, which like for a Zelda game feels like very interesting and good. It tuned up some of the UX. Like if you pick up a like stamina thing, that like replenishes your stamina. In the first edition of the game, if you picked up one of the little stamina things, it says, hey, this is a stamina thing. Here's what it does. Like, it's the first time you've seen this item. And then if you save and quit and come back and pick that thing up again, it's like, hey, let me explain to you what this is. Which is pretty rough if you're going to play it over the course of like any amount of time. Fee.
Pretty rough if you're going to play it.
For any prolonged period. Fee was pretty rough in the first edition. Yeah, so they've done some things to make it a little bit better of a game. You can also play without motion controls, which is a real relief for me personally. It is it's interesting playing this game in 2021. It's very hard not to compare it to Breath of the Wild. Like, I'm trying very hard not to do this because I know that they're like such vastly different games and are absolutely trying to do different stuff.
Yeah,
like Skyward Sword is not trying to be the game that Breath of the Wild is trying to be, or vice versa. And so like I think it's unfair to compare them, but it is very hard not to do that because they're the last two Zelda games that have come out, like mainline console Zelda games. And so it's pretty difficult not to compare them.
That's fair.
And I think by proxy for Skyward Sword to feel a little bit less than Breath of the Wild. Mm-hmm. But I'm trying really hard to meet this game where it is. Because I think that it is good. I think it's just bogged down by a lot of weird kind of decisions and weird stuff with the game itself. Like, I think the story is fascinating and like the lore is really fun. Zelda's like a person in this one, which I think is good. And she is in Breath of the Wild too. But like in other ones, it's just like she's just like an objective, you know?
Yeah, very true.
I guess
Looking
to be fair,
Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, Ocarina. I guess kind of Twilight Princess, although you don't really know what's going on there. And then Wind Waker a little bit as well. But yeah, she's like a character here, which is, you know, a low bar, but still. That part of it is cool. I think like Skyloft as a place is really cool. Like the lore of like, we don't go beyond the clouds. Like we don't know what's down there is really cool. And like all the people in Skyloft are like, yeah, we like our birds won't fly us down there. So we don't do it. Essentially, like
they just won't go, huh?
Yeah, so like they have no knowledge of the surface world, and so like with that context, it's really interesting to like actually go down there and see like what the fuck is going on. So all that's really great. I think the sword stuff is not bad. Like I do prefer playing it with the stick. Like so I guess to explain, in the original Skyward Sword, you played with like the Wii Motion Plus, which tracked your motion a little bit better.
1-to-1, correct?
Yeah, it was supposed to be 1-to-1 compared to like a game we'll talk about later, where the Wiimote was mostly kind of just like triggering button presses with your swings, other than like Wii Sports, I guess.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it purported to be a little bit more accurate, but I think a lot of the times it didn't feel that way. It kind of just felt more frustrating than anything else. At least to me. I won't speak for, the Zelda fandom as a whole, but I didn't have a great experience with that. Not to mention just like, it was hard to play the video game as a logistical challenge. Like I played this like in probably like 2016, 2017. And like, it was hard to find a Wii Motion Plus. It was hard to find a copy of Skyward Sword, and just
they're
like
kind of rare, weren't they?
A little bit, you can get one, but it was still just like, if I wanted to play that video game, it was not as easy as it is now, where I just go to the eShop and download the video game. And for something as significant as like a mainline Zelda game, that felt a little weird.
Yeah.
Versus like fucking Yanya Kabbalista. Like I get I'm not going to be able to go play that because I don't have the skateboard deck that attaches to my PlayStation 2 controller. But this one is a little bit different. Anyway, so I'm not like hugely far into this. I do want to play. I think I want to beat this game, like just to kind of like get the rest of the context on the Zelda series. But I'm definitely having to push a little bit harder than I would with like a Breath of the Wild or, a Wind Waker or Ocarina or something like that.
Yeah.
So there's that. Another game that I am playing with motion controls.
Oh,
it's Half-Life Alyx.
Half-Life Alyx.
Half-Life Alyx, David.
That's tight. Okay, so did you have a VR headset before? I've
been sitting on an Oculus Rift S for a little while. I had I think bought it at some point last year. The logistical challenge of setting up this VR headset was sometimes a little bit much. It's not super easy to make this thing work. It doesn't play nicely with a couple of my USB ports that work with everything else. It's like there's a lot of calibration that needed to be done. A lot of the times the apps just kind of crashed a lot. Ooh. And so I kind of just had set it down for a little while because I was like, maybe in 6 months or so, it'll be a little bit easier to use this stuff. And it mostly has been. There's definitely still some shit that I have to take off the headset, Google, why isn't Rift S connecting right controller and shit like that. And then you got to go to the fucking device manager and reset the drivers and all that sort of shit. So it's not easy per se, but I had a craving to play the next game I'll talk about, but I also played Half-Life Alyx. For anybody who doesn't know what this game is, it is the most recent Half-Life game that they've put out. It is about Alyx Vance, the secondary character in the Half-Life 2 series. You play as her, and it's a VR game, and it's really good, this video game.
I heard it's good.
It's quite good.
Live up to the Valve name.
It definitely does. I think, I don't know if this is fact, but I feel like I've read somewhere that Valve tries not to put something out in their mainline series unless they've got something really significant to work with. I think they were taking pretty big leaps with Half-Life 1 and just the Source engine and making shooters feel really good and shit like that. And then the same thing with Half-Life 2, where it was simulating a significant amount of physics. Specifically the gravity gun was holy shit, this is really good.
Oh, so good. It's still so good.
It's still so good. It still feels good. And so I think that they are hesitant to do something unless they've kind of got a big swing to do, which it's respectable. I get that. And yeah, so the way the game works is that you strap on your headset. You need the Vive or Oculus or Valve VR controllers to play with it. At least I haven't tried with the other ones, but it's like these little handheld guys that you use because there's a pretty significant amount of physicality to this game. So the thing that Valve is doing with this entry in their series is that you're allowed to interact with a pretty significant amount of this game. You are given a lot of control over your hands in Half-Life Alyx. So you can, depending on how you're positioning your hand literally within the controller, you can either be sort of open palming something, grabbing something, pointing, poking, all sorts of stuff. So there's a lot of like variation in how you're allowed to interact with shit. It does a great job of like introducing you to that. It like starts you just on kind of this balcony and there's some objects that you can interact with, whether by literally just kind of knocking them over or picking them up and throwing them. There's like dry erase markers in the first like area that you can pick up and like write on the like window that you're in front of, which is just so cool. And like, it's shocking how effective that is in the moment because you're strapped into the VR headset. Like you're in this place that they're showing you and you like are using a dry erase marker and like it just, you kind of forget your body for a second and you're just like in this space.
Spooky.
And so yeah, it's really cool. Like that trick that they do is really phenomenal. I remember when this had first come out, I was listening, I think it was to Kirk Hamilton on I think it was at the time Split Screen, but now Triple Click, the podcast, and he was talking about how the scale of things works really well. And I agree that like there's a lot of moments where, you know, you're on a rooftop and like one of those like 3-legged walkers will sort of like crawl over you. It's very effective in first person because you're like, you can feel the size of it, right? Like it feels big because with anything VR, the relational space with you and everything that's in it feels a lot more grounded than it does on a TV. It's just, you can really tell how big something is when you're looking at it in 3 dimensions rather than on a flat plane like a TV. So that part of it is really cool. But like I said, I think the thing that is really still hooking me is just the level of interaction you can have with the world. The interesting tool that they give you in this one is the gravity gloves. Gravity gloves, where initially in the game, it's like kind of annoying to go and pick something up because you physically have to get over there, crouch down in real life and grab it. Whereas with the gravity gloves, you can, with either hand, point and sort of like click and it'll lock onto something. And if you just flick your wrist back, it'll pull it and it'll start flying through the air. And then you have to catch it with your hand, which feels so good every time. Like, just to like be able to judge the space of something, reach your hand up and grab it. And like, oftentimes I'll find myself like rotating my hand because I'm like, oh, that thing's coming at a weird angle. I need to be able to catch it like this or something. And it just becomes so natural and feels so good. I don't have that level of interaction with anything else. And so like in video games, I should say, I have caught something in real life.
You played baseball, right?
I did play baseball. I'm not convinced I caught anything in baseball. I was not very good at this sport. But like I always smile when it's like, oh, I see a clip over there. I gravity gun the clip, flick it back, catch it, and then to put it in your inventory, you just put it behind your shoulder and let go, and it'll put it in your backpack. Every time that feels good. Or when your gun runs out of ammo, you press a button, it releases the clip, you reach into your back and grab, and it'll grab a spare clip, pull it out, like lock it into your gun, and then you click it again to sort of let the barrel of the gun come forward. That feels good every time too. Like just that, the physicality of it is really, really cool. Any of the like the areas where they have, I can't remember the name of the enemies, but the ones that have the long tongues that sort of like stick down, and then if you get in there, it'll grab you and pull you up.
Headhunters or head eaters or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Gooey head tongue things.
Those ones always feel good because there's always objects you can just throw at them and then they'll catch them. And so like it forces you to like just grab some shit that's around you and hurl at them.
And you're just doing that with button presses, right? You don't have to like actually move and grab with your fingers, do you?
I mean, sometimes you do. Like for bigger objects, like a barrel, something that's really heavy, you have to go next to it, literally bend over and like grab it, and then, you know, use both your hands and throw it, which is cool. The way that the like actual 3D leg movement works is that it works sort of similar to how other shooters do it, where you'll press and click to a spot in the map and it'll just sort of like teleport teleport you there, which feels sort of weird initially, but I tried it doing where you're just moving the control stick around, immediately sick. I was like, nope, can't do that. Can't do that one. Just like the sensation of moving my 3D body through a place in a linear way made me feel so terrible versus like just teleporting. My brain like doesn't know what that's supposed to feel like, and so it's like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, I've heard that there's big feels on either side of this argument of how you should move around in a 3D space.
Yeah, it's not a settled argument yet. It seems like, which is fun. Like I kind of like seeing both ends of this and which one works for me and which one doesn't. I think the moving your character with your left stick in a sort of direct way is very much rooted in the way that video games are in 2D space. And so I'm not convinced that that's like the right way to do it, just because like this is how video games have been. I think in VR stuff like this does make sense to like kind of try something new. And I think the teleporting stuff isn't bad by any measure. It's a little like uncanny in the sense that you're just like whipping around a level. Like you can really move pretty quick if you want to. But it's crazy, man. Like that VR is really, really cool. And like, I think Alyx demonstrates a really high level of fidelity in a way that just isn't really done very often.
Yeah.
Shooting feels real fucking good. Like just literally closing one eye and pointing and shooting feels really nice. It's all good.
Nice.
Valve makes good video games.
They sure do.
However, the best VR game I've been playing this week.
Oh, another VR game?
Is RagnaRock, David.
RagnaRock?
Rock spelled ROCK.
Oh, hell yeah, baby. Tell me about this game. What is this? I haven't heard of this.
I hadn't either. This was not on my radar. So, RagnaRock is a game where you play as one of the drummer dudes on a Viking longship, and you are trying to keep the beat, to keep your boys rowing at a steady pace. And the way that you do that is there are 4 drums that you have control over, and there are runes or notes coming towards you this way.
Runes.
And you have to hit them in rhythmic fashion. Put maybe differently, this is Rock Band with drums and a longboat.
I was about to say it's Nordic Rock Band.
Yes. This game fucking rules. I love this video game. Initially you're like, okay, how fun can it be to just go like gung, 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 gung? It's not that. You are playing rock drums in this video game.
So it's intense.
It's intense, yeah. It's so most of it, it's like set up very much like a Rock Band game. There are like tracks that you can play, and within the genre that I can only describe as like pirate metal or Viking rock. Like it's a lot of dudes who it sounds like they're singing from the perspective of a pirate, talking about, you know, pirate stuff and the open seas and shit like that. It's very goofy music, and if you're not into that like at all, if you can't even get on it with it ironically, then it might be a little bit grating. But
so hold on, how did you describe this music again?
Like pirate metal.
Metal.
Yeah, like it's if you heard it, you'd know what I'm talking about. It's like if they took a sea shanty and put like drums and bass behind it. Like it's a lot.
So it's not even like Nordic music.
There are Nords singing in this video game. Like there are languages that are like not, they're Icelandic languages, but you know, it's not like just
Black
like
Flag level of sea shanties.
More so with guitars and drums and shit. It's a lot.
All right.
But God, this game is fucking good. You are judged based on your progress, like how well you do. Like again, like sort of like a Rock Band, right? Like you're judged on how many notes you miss, how many, you know, combos you do. It essentially has a rock meter where you have on your little drums where it fills up on the like stick, and then on the hammer, once it gets like electrified, you can hit this gong that's next to you, and it'll electrify all the people on the boat to make them row a little bit faster.
Do people like get super into it and like get more bloodlust if you do well?
They're just rowing a lot better. They just love how good you're doing that drum.
Hell yeah.
And yeah, it's like initially it's very simple, right? Like, you know, you're playing a couple of drums at the same time. Maybe you'll get a little bit of a beat going, but like on hard difficulty, you're fucking going. You're moving with this shit. And like, I thought that this wouldn't work because there is not a physical thing to hit. Like I was like, I don't think, you know, this isn't going to feel as good, but I think the amount of force feedback and like, I guess not force feedback, but vibration that the controller gives you, it's really telling you when you're hitting something. And so like when you're doing well, you can feel it, not just see it. And like, you know, again, when you hit the drum, it vibrates a little bit. And then if you hit it with a note going over it, it vibrates a little bit more. So it's in communication with you about how you're doing, rather than like the sound of this plastic drum is telling me that I'm hitting the notes right or whatever. It's so bad. I cannot get the sound of a rock drum snare being hit out of my brain. Yeah, it's really good. I've played hours of this video game recently.
Oh yeah.
It's just so much fun. Obviously, like, I'm biased. I love the Rock Band and Guitar Hero games. I love playing drums in the Rock Band games. Mm-hmm. This one doesn't have like a kick drum, but I'm like totally fine with that. It's still incredibly fun. It's super silly. It's goofy. It doesn't like, it's fun. So the VR part of it, obviously the controller is a critical part of that. But I think like being in VR in the same way that like Beat Saber utilizes this, like you can see the notes coming at you and you're able to judge it a little bit better. When there are notes coming down, you can see kind of the distance. And a lot of the time you're able to be like, okay, there's a triplet coming up, because I can sort of judge how far away the notes are from each other, which just feels good. Also, if you're ever just like hammering on a snare over and over again, it feels so fucking good. Just any part of the song where they're really going hard. It's good stuff.
Chase, is there something that's like tapping into your DNA when you play this game that's like, yes, this is really what I was meant to do in life?
Probably. It's not conscious, but I think there's some Icelandic in me that's probably like, hey, maybe we do this. Anyway, so I feel like this game is fairly recent. I think it must have just gotten like kind of a major update or something like that, which is probably why it's getting the buzz that it is. I saw it on Steam essentially, and it was like, hey, do you want to play a rhythm game that kind of looks like Rock Band and is in VR and like has like cool fun music? And I'm like, oh my god, yes.
OMG, yes.
OMG, yes. Me and my best friend Jill playing Viking music. Yeah, this game fucking rules. I feel like VR a lot of the times is still sort of stuck in like either tech demo or trying to emulate modern shooters in a way that just doesn't really interest me. I want experiments in video games that can only be done in VR.
Yeah.
And like, as much as this is, you know, you could probably take the headset off and it would still be fun. You really do need the controllers. And I think the VR does add a fair bit. Not to mention the fact that you're seated the whole time really makes me not nauseous at all. It's just so much fucking fun. I couldn't believe it. Like, just so many moments where I'm like, I have shit eating grins because like, I don't really know how to play the fill that I just did in the video game. It feels so goddamn good.
I did it. I did it though.
Yeah, RagnaRock is really good. If you have a VR thing, you should play this because it's very, very fun.
This makes me want them to make a VR game where you're the guitarist in Mad Max.
Oh yeah, that'd be very fun.
Fury
very
Road, the one who's like suspended and breathing fire.
I mean, like, I think that Rock Band did try to do some sort of like augmented reality thing where you're like playing in front of a crowd, but like not in the same way of Mad Max, but like I feel like that there's so much room for that just based on like the presence that VR grants. It's like truly something else. Like, you really don't get it, or at least I didn't get it until like sort of tried this out and saw just how significant it does feel when you're there.
Sure.
So that's great. Something I forgot to mention, I had to like measure my eyeballs to get a good VR setting. The last time I was using it, I was
eyeballs.
There's like an app on the iPhone that you can use to measure the distance between your eyeballs. And that's like a setting that you can set in the VR stuff. And like, it should just do it automatically. Come on. But like,
it sounds so spooky. I'm going to measure your eyeballs
my
now.
Eyeballs. Let me see my eyeballs. Anyway, this will bring me to my Podtimistic thing that we did.
Yeah, let's hear it.
It's the Steam Deck, this weird fucking thing that they're trying to put out.
Yeah, Steam Deck, baby.
They heard that Nintendo was being asked for a Switch Pro, and then Nintendo was like, hey, we got a very good screen. And Steam was like, but maybe we could do this instead. So they've put out ostensibly a Switch Pro, or they took pre-orders for it. It is a little handheld thing that is a little bit heavier than a Switch, and it has a bunch of wild controls on it, and it will allow you to play your Steam library on this little handheld thing. I am thrilled about the possibility of this. I have no idea if it's going to be good or not, because it totally could be terrible and doesn't run very well, or like has a 30-minute battery life or something. They purport to say that you can run it for 8 hours, but we will see.
We will see.
But yeah, just I always love weird hardware swings like this, and I think it's pretty interesting. And like, Valve doesn't have a phenomenal record of doing very good hardware.
No, they don't, unfortunately.
They don't really. To be fair, though, their VR headset I've heard is really, really good. And so I'm hoping that maybe they learned a little bit there and were able to channel a little bit of that decision making into this one, because I really do like the possibility of just having like an indie game machine that I can log into and not have to sit at my computer like a fucking working human being. I do that all day. I don't want to be here.
You can plug it into your TV too, right? It would dock to your TV.
Yeah, you can use that as a dock, so that part of it is pretty straightforward. I will be surprised if it gets the same level of performance if you plug it into a 4K TV.
Oh, yeah, I would not think so. But the possibilities are pretty awesome because it's just a PC, so you could put like Gamepass on there. You could put any other video game client on this thing.
Emulation. You could emulate a fucking PSP on there, baby.
You could what the PSP always was supposed to be. This is
the true form of the Vita. This is the Vita's perfect form.
Vita parentheses true form.
Unlocked latent ability.
Unlocked latent ability.
So yeah, this
fucking Dragon Ball Z, dude.
This thing is fun. I like this thing. David, do you have something fueling your sense of podtimism?
It's ray tracing.
It's ray tracing. Yeah, it rules.
It looks so good. It just makes games look so good.
Sometimes GPU people and hardware people will say a buzzword, and I'm like, okay, guys, like, how many fucking gigaflops do you have in this thing? Like, sometimes it just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I thought ray tracing was one of those things.
No.
No, it looks so good with ray tracing on.
Anybody who doesn't know, ray tracing is a new technology that allows for the accurate tracing of light rays in a video game space. Yep. So the lighting finally, after so many years, looks real. It's pretty amazing.
It is, yeah. I think I played Control with ray tracing, and that was the first one that I was like, holy shit, this is really something else going on here. Mm-hmm. It truly makes a difference. I love that you're seeing it on some of the more like modern PlayStation games. Like I think Ratchet and Clank has a ray tracing option. Miles Morales had a ray tracing option. Like Demon's Souls just has ray tracing normally. It just the shadows and the way that it plays off of like this ambient light is just crazy. It looks so good. Mm-hmm. Again, like I am not a stickler for like graphics looking good. I don't really care. At this point, like there was a moment in time where it's like, if you're on N64 and a game looks like shit, like it might become less playable as a result. But like something like RagnaRock is not particularly crazy as far as like how it looks visually, but like it plays so good. But Jesus, like all that said, sometimes if like these games are really pushing it, it is quite striking how good something can look. So hell yeah.
It's Doom Eternal. I'm looking at you. Ray tracing.
Yeah, no. Doom Eternal does good ray tracing, and they do it like very performantly as well. Like it performs very well without like just destroying your GPU. Like what was it? Frostpunk, that game that I played last year. It was like lighting my computer on fire. That thing was so hot for like a strategy game. Whereas like this nutty ass Doom game, it's like it's fine. We'll turn on the fan every now and then, but you're good, man. It's
good.
Cool.
We good.
Yeah. Hell yeah, ray tracing. David, do you want to move on to our main thing?
Yeah, let's do it.
Great. Hello, David.
Hello, David.
Hey, it's Good Games. It's back after
we're in it again.
After a week off or whatever it was. It is the segment where
that's right. We did our weird thing last week.
It's the segment where we talk about all the okayest games of yesteryear, run down some of the stuff that we love about them, and some other shit maybe too. Who knows? We talk about old games and why we love them. Not just nostalgically, but in fucking good, smart guy form. I don't know what I'm saying.
Chase, smart guy form, parentheses. It's just you in a, with glasses, but you're kind of like pulling them down. You're standing perpendicular to the camera with one hand in your pocket, the other hand out, kind of like doing a little flourish. No, down next to you. Like down to your side. But I know what you're doing, and you're wearing a 3-piece suit, and the coat is billowing in the wind.
Yeah,
That's your anime pose.
I think you've described a magician, unfortunately enough for me, and my sort of personal brand.
Smart guy. Maybe I did just describe a magician. I apologize. You're better than a magician, Chase.
Sorry, magicians.
You're
got dunked on a little bit.
You're my friend-magician.
Oh, I make magic tricks out of your heart.
You make my friends disappear, you monster.
Okay. So we're going to talk about a video game. I think given the context of all the motion controls and new emerging technologies, this game is relevant. Mm-hmm. And we had to do it at some point. We're going to talk about Red Steel.
Oh, yeah. We are. We totally are going to talk about Red Steel.
You've been dreading this one because I think it's going to take a lot more flexing of your Podtimism muscles than it is for me.
This one and Coded Arms have been my biggest flexes because I just remember them. I wanted both these games to be so good when I was younger. Yeah. And they just weren't there.
They were not a 10 out of 10. They were not
a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot for me to reconcile their shortcomings and focus on their triumphs.
Yeah, for sure. I will be your guide on this Podtimism journey.
I'm ready.
Because this game is kind of a dumpster, and that's okay.
It's okay.
There's some good stuff about it that we can talk about.
Sometimes a game's just a dumpster.
Sometimes, man, it's just a little dumpy, but that's okay. It's still a good fucking video game.
It's just a little dumpy.
Let me hit you with a few of those hot statistics.
Statistics.
Hot stats. This game came out November 19th of 2006 for the Nintendo Wii Entertainment Console.
15 years ago.
I think this was a launch title, wasn't it? I think this was...
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was a launch or like close to the launch.
I think this was one of the first few games that I was playing on the Wii.
Yeah.
There was a fair bit of hype for it because I think there
was a lot of hype for it, I thought.
The marketing was like, you can use a gun and a sword. And like with the promise of the Wiimote being a motion tracking device, that sounds pretty compelling.
The game changer of motion tracking in a video game console that will forever change the first person shooter experience.
Yeah. You can hold the gun.
And then sometimes the thing that you hold that's supposed to be the gun then becomes a katana. Isn't that cool, kids?
Isn't that sick, gamers?
And you nod emphatically because, that is pretty cool.
This game was made by Ubisoft Paris Studios. They are responsible for most of the Just Dance games. They're responsible for the Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon series.
Okay.
They also made the game 13, that weird sort of like comic book stylized shooter, which was also a very okay game. They also made the very critically acclaimed Cats with a Z, where you take care of cats.
Is that the sequel to Cats the Musical? Cats, the movie, the musical, the game.
It's the dark, gritty reboot of Cats 2019. Cats with a Z, post-apocalypse.
Cats with a Z.
I do have a review from our friends at Joe Video, which makes sense for a game reviewed in or developed in Paris.
You have been there.
I have been there. I met Joe Video all those years ago.
You met Joe?
Yeah, I was a time walker back then, so I could walk through time and see that we would eventually have a working relationship with Joe Video. And I walked in there and said, "Hello, I can see your future. I have peered into my obelisk and have seen the future, and we will have a one-sided relationship with you in the future where we mention you on our podcast." And then they said, "You should leave this building." And I said, "Okay.
Sounds like a plan.
Sounds good. I get how this looks from your perspective." I have taken Joe Video's review. I've run it through language after language, working one translation into another language one by one, through a whole bunch of languages, and spat it back out in English to mangle it. Yeah, let me read this for you. Let me get in there. Okay, so Joe Video had to say, sort of. The Ubisoft development team recently encountered an issue. Red Iron wants to learn the game on Nintendo's system, but the speed is slow, the performance is very heavy, and it is boring, especially ugly. Art, architecture, if life interests you, suffer. The remote has made significant legal changes since working with the Wii. 5 out of 10. Not a good video game.
Art, architecture, if life interests you,
suffer.
Oh my God. Wow. For some reason... What were you going to say?
Sorry. No, I was going to say Joe did not have favorable opinions about this video game.
That last bit about the Wii's legal status reminded me of something Ron Burgundy would say to warm up.
The remote has made significant legal changes since working with the Wii. The Human Torch was denied a bank loan.
Sounds like something you would say. Maybe I'm just going crazy, but I hear it.
Okay. Might you tell me what Red Steel is? What is this video game, Dave?
Red Steel, or Red Iron, as Joe Video was calling it.
Yep.
Red Steel is a first-person shooter for the Wii.
Yes.
The Wii being the very novel game console where its controller was essentially an IR remote.
Yep.
That you would then use, waggle around and move around to interact with games.
Yeah.
So this game was very interesting in that since this was such a unique controller, nothing had been done like this before, and they're putting it into a first-person shooter, people were very excited to see what would happen. You could also, there were also randomly little sword fighting elements of the game as well.
Yeah.
So mostly shooting with some sword fights thrown in there for good measure. Yeah, pretty typical first-person shooter. It's Los Angeles and Tokyo, I believe, are the two settings. You're trying to find your fiance, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, you're trying to save her from the Yakuza.
There's like some drama going on where her dad's like wanted or being attempted to be killed by the Yakuza. In the beginning, you're about to ask her father for her hand in marriage. You, of course, being Scott, the bodyguard. Previous bodyguard who's now dating said daughter. Yeah, and you get wrapped up into this violent conflict between people. Yeah,
that's pretty much it.
This video game. Let's all say some nice inner dialogue things, say some nice affirmations before we get to the game doesn't feel good to play. There's not a lot of good feelings that happen when you play this video game.
But what good feelings are in there, Chase?
There are good feelings. I can get to some of them soon, but I feel like with a lot of these, we gotta give a little pitch to some of the bad stuffs up front, just to be like, hey, look, we acknowledge that Red Steel did not feel good to play. That's a thing that is true.
Yeah. Video games were in a strange in-between phase at this point in time, because if I remember correctly, like Red Steel and Coated Arms did not come out too far from each other.
No, they didn't.
They were within like 3 or 4 years of each other, I'm pretty sure.
We were trying so hard to make shooting feel like a good thing. And it was really tough to do when we didn't have 2 sticks. And it was even harder when we were trying to like use motion controls and all of this. So I think for context, like the way that the aiming works in this game is that you have a reticle on screen. You have a Wiimote in your right hand and a nunchuck in your left, which is like shocking to me. I forgot that they just straight up called it a nunchuck. Like that is text in the manual.
That is the official
It calls
name.
it a fucking nunchuck.
Nunchuck.
Yeah.
For anyone who doesn't know, the nunchuck is like a little blob of plastic that plugs into the Wiimote that has an analog stick and 2 buttons on it.
It's as if you took the middle part of the N64 controller and just ripped it off. And that is like the entirety of the controller.
That's exactly what it is. You got it.
So it usually was used as a way to have like a left stick in these kind of games if you needed one. And that's what they used it for here. The left stick controlled your leg movement. So if you wanted to go forward, backwards, strafe a little bit, you could use your nunchuck. However, if you wanted to aim or change the way that your head was looking, you had to move the Wiimote to the corners of the screen or to one side of it, which would then move your head, which is a really painful way to play a video game. Like, it's really slow. It doesn't feel good. The technology really wasn't there yet either. Like, your Wiimote could so easily get lost and like just like, where the fuck am I pointing this? And your head's just darting around every way
all the time. Had to calibrate that bad boy quite often.
Constantly. It's as if like you know those like menus that have become really common in the last like 5 years or so, like the Destiny menu, where it essentially just simulates having a mouse where your right stick is like this little like circular cursor that moves around in a menu, and then you can highlight and click shit. It's as if that was how you were aiming in a first person shooter. Yeah. Which is like quite a rough way to control.
Not easy.
No. And like the what ended up happening is like the viscerality of a first person shooter really got removed, and a lot of the time you would just kind of find a good spot in the level and just kind of start poking and shooting at people rather than like moving and shooting. Yeah. Because it was hard to like move your head in this game. It really like you weren't able to move your head and then lock back onto somebody if you suddenly saw them. Mm-hmm. So that part of it was pretty rough.
Yeah. The dynamism that is present in so many first-person shooters nowadays, like Doom, gone.
Yeah, no, it was not a fast game by any measure. So that was kind of rough.
Couldn't be.
No. The sword fighting was equally as interesting. I think this was more of a marketing issue than anything else. Like, I think when you're imagining a sword fighting with a Wiimote, you're imagining what Skyward Sword was trying to do, where you have like this one-to-one thing and you're fighting with people. Mm-hmm. It's really not what it was. Like, you essentially moved, and then like a second later, your sword would kind of come through at a predetermined angle, slicing at somebody. And so like, this part of it, I think, wasn't nearly, in hindsight, quite as bad as like the solution for aiming was. It was just sort of like, I think I was let down at the time because I was like, oh man, I wanted to sword fight pretty bad.
I wanted more.
Yeah, because like, you know, I imagine sword fighting, like we'd all play the game at arcades where you have the little like stick and your lightsaber fighting with fucking Vader, and it feels incredible. Like,
so good.
Of course, that's not possible with like something that can't push back on you or doesn't track your motion one-to-one. But still, it was kind of a letdown in that way. So all that said, I think there's some cool stuff about this video game still. Yeah. Do you want to talk about what you liked about it first, or do you want me to sort of boost up your spirits to get you moving?
I do remember, initially being let down by the sword fighting, but kind of enjoying it, actually. Yeah. It at least got me halfway there, maybe like a quarter of the way there, of like what I was dreaming of. Yeah. And once I realized that was an unrealistic expectation, I was like, okay, this isn't bad. Yeah. It's fairly dynamic. You kind of have to dodge, you have to counterattack, you have to watch out for their heavy attacks and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So there is an element of, you can definitely cheese people, but I feel like that's in bad faith. Yeah. So if you're actually like trying to play along with the game, it can be pretty engaging. That's probably one of the things I remember the most. I'm really trying hard to find something good to say about the shooting, but it is eluding me. Sure. If you want to jump in on that one, I'm all ears. Yeah, sure. I mean, I agree. Like I wouldn't say the shooting feels good, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's compared to a lot of other shooters that would come out that year or the next, right? Like, as much as I harp on Call of Duty, the shooting feels good. And that game came out, if not in 2006, in 2007, like it was around that time. Yeah, there was a Wii Call of Duty, wasn't there, with the same kind of control scheme? There was, yeah. Which I don't know if that one felt good at all. I didn't play it because Red Steel made a pretty convincing argument not to. That was a bad idea. Yeah. Yeah. And so like, I wouldn't agree that it feels great. I think that there are moments that feel good. Right. Mm-hmm. Like, I think when you've got a good like spot that you're sitting in and you're sort of like just trying to aim a little bit and shoot dudes from far away, that can feel pretty good and pretty fun. Mm-hmm. Like when it's working, I think it does work well. I think there's just a lot of like technical challenges that were getting in the way of it feeling phenomenal. Sure. And so like I was reading this interview. I think it was with the producer of Red Steel, and they were describing. Yeah, she was describing the like build up to them building Red Steel. And she said, the first contact between Ubisoft and Nintendo was at E3 2005. At that time, Nintendo wanted a third-party team to work on a first-person view game for the Wii. We only got basic info about the concept of the pad, the capture device, and the relative power of the console. No real technical data were supplied at that stage. Mm-hmm. And went on to say, then we spent about 2 to 3 months just imagining how you can use and play with the controller and the buttons. We had no deadline, no pressure, and no constraint,
but to try and move with a remote control and see what they could do with it. We listed all the moves they liked and the first rough ideas of gameplay linked to those moves. Two teams began working on the project at first. The engineers and the designers, they worked as you can play. God, I think this is translated from another language, but they worked as you can play ping pong. At first, designers got ideas, and then in the second step, engineers tried to see if there was if it was possible versus the hardware. So essentially what she was describing was like, they got notified from Nintendo, like, hey, we want to build a first-person game. What can you do? And they essentially said, just kind of go nuts, like figure it out. But what I thought was more interesting was the timeline here. The first contact between Ubisoft and Nintendo was at E3 2005. This game launched in November of 2006.
Yeah, so like not long.
At best, this game is being developed for like a year.
It's actually kind of impressive that they made this in a year.
That's what I was thinking. Like, you've got no time to figure this out. Like, if you make a game conceivably, with, say you build for 6 months, you've got another 6-8 months to put the finishing touches on it and ship it. Like, holy shit, man, that is a really, really tight deadline. And so while I don't want to like pull from this like meta information of like, well, they didn't have enough time to make a good game, I still think it is really impressive that they got this far and were able to like sort of imagine like, I don't know, this seems cool. Guns and katanas seems pretty neat. And like, that's not a bad first starting point, to be fair.
That's not a bad starting point at all for a game. Guns and katanas. No. Okay, cool.
And so like, as I've said before, I really appreciate these weird first experiments with an emerging technology because like there is no paradigm. They don't know how to do this yet. And so like them just trying something is like inherently valuable to me. The shooting being this thing where they're like, we don't have a third hand that you can use, right? Like if you could build this game, have a controller in your hand, and then a third hand control the Wiimote, that would be sick. That would be a cool game because you could move your head and your body independently and then also your cursor. But at this point, we're just talking about a PC game. So like, why not that instead? Right, yeah. But I think that the constraint of we have one kind of analog stick, a couple of buttons, and this remote. Let's try and make a shooter out of it. Is really, really cool that they got this far. And like you were saying, the shooting is nothing to write home about. I think like it can be fun in moments. I do think that the sword fighting bit, if they had stripped everything else away, that would have been a pretty good game if they had just ran with that ball. As simple as it is, right? Like you could add more layers of difficulty, but like the dodging, the parrying, the hitting, like sort of these heavy versus light attacks were all pretty fun. Like that, I think that game is there. The way that it like works in the actual game is that you will be like running through some hallway and then there will be a dude with a sword you apparently decide not to use a gun on and you're like, oh, I will use my sword too. That's fine. And you like pull your sword out and like almost like a fighting game. There's like these two health bars that pop up in the left and the right screen. And you like essentially go to town and fight in this sword battle. The way that this was introduced is sort of hilarious. Like you're escorting your fiance's dad around this like hotel, I think, that's being attacked by the Yakuza. And he's like wounded and so he can't fight. But you roll up on this like floor of the hotel and he's like, a sword, grab it. And then you grab it. And then some dude with a sword rolls up and he's like, okay, it's time to fight him. Use your sword. And like, it's just this ridiculous conceit. Like the game makes a lot of games at this time really didn't really give a shit about like, we're just going to give you the tutorial. We're not interested in narrative conceits. Do you remember at the beginning of The Last of Us 2 where you're running around and having a gunfight with the kids where you're using like Nerf guns? Yep. That is a tutorial that is based in reality, right? Like it's teaching you how to play the game without, actually having you shoot people. Yeah. This game doesn't give a flying fuck about that at all. Like the dude who is teaching you how to sword fight is wounded off to your left, there is a person standing in front of you fighting you with a sword, and not at any moment does that person say, I should go stab this other guy. He's literally teaching this guy how to sword fight.
Kill me.
Yeah, if I just go stab him, he seems pretty weak. That doesn't seem like that hard of a deal. No, not a problem. You run up on another dude at a later point, and the guy who you're escorting is like, ooh, this guy's tough. He's smart. He's gonna dodge your moves. You better be careful. How do you know that? How do you know that about this person?
Just sized him up immediately.
Yeah, oh, he's gonna dodge. Be careful, dude. Like, if I was the other sword dude, I'd be like, what the fuck? You don't know me. So that part of it is like goofy and ridiculous and like very 2006 game design. But yeah, like the sword fighting I thought always felt pretty fun, honestly.
Yeah, the sword fighting was definitely, I think, a highlight because the gunplay was so
not as good. Yeah, not as good.
I remember the explosions being pretty good with like the rocket launcher.
They were.
Surprisingly.
There was a lot of stuff that I was like, I wonder if you just put this on a regular controller, if this game would be fun. And I honestly think it would. Like, there's the environments I thought were pretty like well done.
Yeah.
It like a lot of them were pretty dynamic, and like it was clear that they spent a lot of time just building out these levels, which I thought were pretty interesting and like pretty cool.
Yeah, no,
there's definitely some Last Samurai shit going on here where like there's this huge fucking Yakuza war going on, and Scott is gonna save the day.
Here.
Like, yeah.
And some of the places you have battles are pretty cool.
Absolutely,
white boy savior,
just white savior nonsense. But yeah, no, you're right. They take a lot of care to place the sword fights in spaces that are pretty neat.
Yeah. I remember the one where it's like you're
that you could easily see being in like a movie.
Yeah, you're on a runway and the plane's right behind you and the propellers are going. It's like, all right, got to sword fight this guy. That part was cool. Yeah, I think like obviously there's a lot of influence being drawn from like sort of these gun fu movies, right? Like a lot of these shootout scenes are very reminiscent. Like the sword fighting is already reminiscent. It feels like the sword fighting part, weirdly enough, felt very Kill Bill in the way that it was like sort of the tone of it. Like the music felt very Kill Bill, despite the fact it was just like, you know, it's just fucking sword fighting. Like that's in a million movies. But I think the tone of it and the music that they chose felt very of that moment. Yeah, like to reiterate, this game is like, you know, if you played it in 2021, I doubt you would be like, hell yeah, this is fucking fun every moment. But, you know, after having played now Skyward Sword, a VR first-person shooter, like this weird VR rhythm game, like there's a lot of connective tissue between all of this stuff, including Red Steel, that I think is pretty interesting. Half-Life Alyx, I think, is what Red Steel was trying to do without a sword. Oh, yeah.
Like moving your head around, that is literally the missing component of this game. Being able to aim your arm and move your body and your head all independently is what they were trying to do. They just didn't have enough shit to do it.
It was just too early.
It was too
ambitious, too early.
Yeah, and so like as we talked about with Coded Arms, like I don't know that you can do a very good first-person shooter with one analog stick.
Yeah.
But I really respect the ambition of just like, let's try it. Let's see if we can do it with this.
We got a year. Let's do it.
Yeah, literally a year. And not to mention, you know, I think that the sword fighting was fun. And even in Skyward Sword, where it is at this point pretty close to 1-to-1.
Yeah.
The Joy-Cons are like secretly very good motion trackers, like incredibly competent motion trackers. And I've used it a couple times in Skyward Sword, and I'm always just like, I don't know if I want this. I don't know if I want the 1-to-1 sword fighting like this.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if it would have been fun even in that if they had nailed it the first time, you know?
But what about Wii Sports Resort?
Listen, Wii Sports notwithstanding, Resort, phenomenal. Those games, good video games, the Wii Sports.
But like the samurai fighting one?
It's good, man.
1-to-1. That's 1-to-1, baby.
It feels good. I'm just saying that, like, even if they had nailed it, it might not have been good. Whereas I think this is still pretty fucking serviceable. It's still like the idea that they are rolling with, I think, is good.
Wasn't there a Red Steel 2?
There was. I did not play this video game because,
I didn't either.
I was like, I think Steel. I don't want Red Steel 2.
I remember it getting better reviews. Did it use the Motion Plus?
I don't know. It came out in 2010, I think. So it might have. stuff.
Was that still when the Wii was around?
I think so, because the Wii U came out in what, 2013?
Oh my god, my bones are so brittle.
It seems like there's a missing generation in between the Wii and the Wii U.
Yeah, they don't seem like they'd be brothers.
No, or direct descendants.
Direct
right?
descendants, yeah.
It seems like there should have been
There's something between.
A Wii 2 in there somewhere.
I mean, yeah.
Well, cool. Do you have anything that you are going to feel bad if you don't say about Red Steel?
Good job, Red Steel. You fucking tried. You swung for the fences. I feel like this is kind of my cop-out Podtimistic thing, but like, well done. You put it all on the line. You were a launch title. You got hyped up by the company that you were making this game for, and you swung and you kind of missed. You kind of missed, but you really tried to hit it out of the park, and I respect that. I really do.
I do too. I'm going to sound like a broken record for a lot of this stuff. I don't think swinging and missing is a bad thing. Like,
no, it's not.
There are a lot of games that I like a lot less that like are on paper better reviewed, you know, like that try a lot less hard to do something cool and are just sort of like paint by numbers video game. They're like, that's a good one. But like,
yeah,
I don't know that it was swinging quite as hard. Like I just think that there is value in trying this hard to do something out of the norm that isn't. Yeah. The path hasn't been walked before. Like they're trying something new.
Yeah. No, totally. Was it Mrs. Thompson who's like, if you're not going to give me an A paper, give me like your best F, because I don't want to read mediocre stuff. Like nothing makes me hate life more than something that's just mediocre. That's just boring. I totally get that. Like the paint by number stuff is not as fun as like a phenomenal failure. Like something that is trying so hard and is so bad. And like that's really good, but like still remember it to this day. Absolutely, I think about Red Steel a lot. Like this game is with me fairly frequently. When I played that Wii Sports Resort with the Wii Motion Plus, and it was the like Samurai Showdown, I'm like, this is what Red Steel was supposed to be. Yeah. This is what the battles should have been. If they just had more time. If they had more time and the technology, the Wii Motion Plus was the missing component. Well, hell yeah, Red Steel and Wii Sports. And I know, it's usually, I think that's kind of how I always am. Hell yeah, Metal Gear Solid 5 and Wii Sports. And Wii Sports. Always. David. Yes. We are on Twitter. We sure are. We are at Podtimism if you would like to interact with us there. If you have the burning desire to send us an email, you can send it to us at vgpodtimism@gmail.com. The very memorable email. Very easy to remember. Not an issue to send one that way if you're dying for it. If you are if you're just so bored on Sunday evening or Monday morning when this show usually comes out, and you're like, man, I would just love to help out this podcast. A great way to do that is to review it on your podcast host of choice, if that's possible. I don't know that it's possible outside of Apple Podcasts, but that's the place that I look at reviews of podcasts. And just, speak your truth about this here podcast. Speak it to the masses. Speak it to Tim Apple. Tell him, and he'll send it to the rest of us. So you can also, and probably this is a better way to do it, find your coolest gamer friend and show this to them. The gamer friend that you're like, I don't know if I could talk to them about Red Steel for 2 hours. I don't know if I could go that hard in the paint. You can, as maybe an introduction, send them this podcast and say, hey, I bet you would really like this, given that you're a cool gamer. Or maybe like you're just your most average gamer friend. So long as you're just not a problematic gamer friend. Yeah, not trying to gather those ones. But if you think that our podcast could turn your problematic gamer friend into a podtimistic gamer friend, by all means, please. That would be cool. Do we have that power? I don't know if we do. I don't know if we have that power, but I hope so. But that's the vibe I'm trying to send out into the world. Sure, absolutely. Anyway, and then the final thing that you can do is enjoy this next sentence. Thank you for listening to this podcast. Thank you. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate you listening.
and your support. And
yes,
we respect you and love you and support all the things that you do.
Ooh.
So there's that.
Voodoo you do.
Yes. Whatever that. Yes.
Yes. Whatever that. Yes.
Yes. So yeah, thanks for listening. We love making this. We're thrilled that people also like listening to it with your ears. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Dave, do you have any gaming wisdom for us this week?
Yeah, I do.
I need to leave that pause in. I don't want to edit out the pause at all.
The deep inhale.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
What is it?
Don't let the fear hold you back. Don't let it hold you back from trying something new.
True.
From doing your thing.
Yeah.
Maybe you should send Jane Warden Kelly to the front lines and see if she can just one-shot all the aliens.
She might be able to.
Maybe she'll be able to, but sometimes that's just the risk you gotta take to get a new stew going, baby.
To beat the aliens that are invading your planet.
To beat the aliens that are invading the planet. But yeah, it's okay to fail, I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, hell yeah. Video games have a lot of fail in it. There's a lot of failing in video games.
You always learn more from your failures than you do your successes.
That's fucking true. I don't learn shit from my successes.
Same. I just feel good. It makes me feel
when
good,
I succeed,
I don't learn anything.
No, absolutely not. When I succeed, I'm like, hell yeah, that feels good. And then I go about my day. When I fail, I'm like, who am I?
Who am I?
Does Hideo Kojima know who I am? How do I get closer to that?
Absolutely not.
No, he doesn't. It's upsetting.
Maybe we just rename this the Kojima Cast, and then he'll have to take notice of us.
Notice me, Kojima. Please.
Kojima Senpai, notice me.
Please. I need your affirmations and your support.
Pretty much.
Maybe we can just pretend to be a gaming company that's contracting with Kojima to make a video game. This won't end bad at all. There will be no problems that I see from this.
What if we accidentally sign a contract and we have to make a game? I don't know how to code.
I mean, I barely know how to code, so it's not a good start, to be honest.
So we're working at like a quarter tank full.
Yeah. We could probably build like Metal Gear for NES. That's probably a thing that we could do.
Ridge.
Yeah. Okay. We will call it Metal Gear :
Metal Gear :
Chavid's Big Chance.
Chavid's Big Chance. CBC.
Metal Gear :
The Chungus Among Us. That's the best I got.
: Red Steel 2 3.
Oh.
Metal Gear : Red Steel 2 3.
Metal Gear : Red Steel 2 3 : a Strand type game.
Okay, goodbye.
Okay, see ya.